Welcome to the film theory tutorial with me, Andy Bainbridge. A quick word on what this will be. I've been taking a few film theories and applying them to some examples I found in a few movies. So, what is semiotics?
Semiotics, the study of signs and symbols, is a branch of philosophy related to linguistics.
Cheers, Sheldon. Antics aside, that is basically it. Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols. But before we get stuck into some examples, there's another thing to consider, the reception theory. The reception theory is a theory by cultural theorist Stuart Hall. Not to be confused with the X-It Knockout host of the same name. Two very different people. Hall's theory suggests that we draw on our own experiences to interpret and understand media. And now we've covered that and we've got it fresh in our minds, we'll dive into our first example of film semiotics. This first piece is from the British comedy film Hot Fuzz, and in particular the Battle of Summerfield scene. Now apply reception theory to this clip and we have some semiotics to analyse. Now to people unfamiliar with the Summerfield supermarket chain, this is merely a fight occurring inside a supermarket, which is funny in itself, but to people aware of Summerfield, then a layer of extra meaning is added, as the general semiotics or social stereotype of Summerfield is an incredibly middle class, yet dull, lifeless and without character brand of store. So to those aware of the connotations associated, then the setting of the scene ties in nicely to the codes and conventions of the humour that Hot Fuzz tries to portray. Another piece of semiotics in the film Hot Fuzz is in the sea mine scene, in which we see Nicholas Angel questioning an old man over some hedge-cutting offences.
What did he say?
He said, "How's his hedge, huh? He only chopped him down because he couldn't see the view no more. What's he under?"
First we see the three policemen communicating with the man over the wall. The semiotics of this is to show the segregation between the country and the city. It could also be used to show the wall in society between pedestrians and the law, and the wall in society in general.
Mr. Webley, I trust you have a licence for that firearm.
I don't for this. Just for this.
Also note that the gent is wearing an incredibly outdated dressing gown. This is to possibly suggest that the village of Sandford is an outdated, sleepy, segregated British village. A further piece of semiotics that supports this is the shell suit that Pete the robber wears in the infamous fence jump scene.
Excuse me.
Now apply reception theory and parochial meaning and we can work out that a shell suit is normally a signifier of the lower classes who, according to a study in America, are more likely to commit a crime, hence the robbery, but also to again show that Sandford is a little segregated from society, as a shell suit is generally a piece of clothing associated with the decade of the 80s, and should have probably stayed there in all honesty. Also note that although the film is centred around police officers, they choose to make them wear police uniform, instead of, say, making them plain clothes. Of course, the colours of the UK policing force is black and white, which is also the colours of the Chinese philosophy symbol yin-yang, which is used to describe how certain country forces are linked in common society. Now take this and think about...
I'll turn your ringer back.
Two central protagonists of the film, Nicholas Angel and Danny Buttman, and you'll see how yin-yang is applied. Nicholas Angel
Police Constable Nicholas Angel
is an incredibly smart and polite young man who is very passionate about his job. Sometimes too passionate, which we see when he arrests a group of underage drinkers at the local pub who had previously been unnoticed.
When's your birthday?
Whereas Danny Buttman is a well-hearted yet naive, docile buffoon who is only really in the job due to severe nepotism, with his father being head of the policing unit in Sandford. As the film progresses, however, we see how Angel and Buttman coexist to fight evil and ultimately end up running the policing unit, perhaps to say how balance is needed in society to keep everything functioning, and also acts as a sort of underdog story for Danny Buttman, as he starts out as the kind of buffoon who doesn't really know what he's doing, but ultimately ends up at the top of his game, and there's nothing else Brits love more than an underdog story. Apart from tea and crumpets, obviously. Now back to that fence jump scene, and a common piece of work from director Edgar Wright. We call this auteur theory. auteur theory is a saying that means an idea that reflects the director's personal creative vision. So we see the fence jump not only in Hot Fuzz, but we also see it in the previous Edgar Wright movie Shaun of the Dead.
I'm taking a shortcut before.
Which is also referenced in the fence jump scene by the DVD Zombie Party, which is clearly Shaun of the Dead. Look at the box art, they're exactly the same. And also his most recent release, The World's End.
Oh no!
The series of films is known as the Three Flavors Cornetto Trilogy, a reference to several cornetto jokes made in all three films. Auteurs will often tend to work with the same cast and crew, and Edgar Wright is no different, often collaborating with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, not only in the aforementioned 3 movies, but also in a TV series, Spaced. Another auteur feature of Wright is his dramatic over-edits, which can be seen in films such as Shaun of the Dead. Perhaps another auteur can be seen in the movie 4 Lines, with director and writer Chris Morris, who has a track record for dealing with taboo or controversial subject matter, with previous outings on the small screen including topics such as sex,
You shouldn't have come in. You've got bad AIDS. You shouldn't have come in.
drugs,
But this is cake, the new killer drug from Prague.
and not rock and roll, but paedophilia. And 4 Lines is no different. The 4 Lines is effectively a satire on Marxism, using jihadi terrorism as an example. The character of Ward represents this really well, as by the end of the movie he wants nothing to do with jihadi terrorism, despite having been behind the cause all the way through. A further example of a Marxist satire is through Barry. Barry is a white man of British descent who has converted to Islam despite having no real Muslim beliefs aside Islamic extremism.
I am the invisible jihadi. They seek him here, they seek him there, but he's not there. He's blowing up your slag sister.
This is shown when Barry discourages another Muslim man, Hassan, of visiting the mosque for prayers. He then threatens to bomb said mosque in order to radicalise the moderates. This shows the Marxism thinking of Barry, as he is rising up against his own people of supposed same beliefs, who in fact share very little of the same beliefs. Perhaps there is more signs of auteur theory seen in some of Barry's antics, where he makes the rest of the group eat their SIM cards and makes Wadge urinate his own mouth in the woods as rules of submission. This is an auteur touch of Morris, where he tries to make the utterly ridiculous seem ever so slightly plausible, with scenes such as this in his previous small screen outings.
And we've just heard that areas in 3 of Britain's biggest cities are being evacuated due to suspect dogs. Police believe this could be the start of a mainland campaign of dog bombs threatened by the IRA last month.
So why shouldn't I be a bomber if you treat me like one?
Mashallah, brother.
Yeah, mashallah.
A further sign of Marxism in the movie, albeit a far more serious one, is portrayed through a scene featuring Hassan, who at this point is an unradicalised Muslim at an Islam moderation and progress debate. He suggests that he might as well be a terrorist because everyone thinks he is one because he is a Muslim. This not only suggests a level of stereotyping in society, but also suggests that modern culture is almost asking for a rebellion and welcomes Marxism. Although in the case of 4 Lines, a negative change in society is hinted towards, with the obvious threat of terrorism after years of discrimination, oppression and occasional poverty for such Muslims, especially for those converts and immigrants/immigrants in all parts of the globe suffering from suppression, but being allowed their Muslim beliefs, which has questionably fueled their hate of the Western world and led to terrorism. A far more serious portrayal of Marxism can be seen in the film Hotel Rwanda, which is based on real-life events following the Rwandan genocide in 1994, which saw the large political group, the Hutus, going up against the smaller group, the Tutsis. Preceding events included Tutsi militia assassinating Hutu politicians in Burundi and Tutsi exiles helping Tutsis in Rwanda to liberate Rwanda. This subsequently led to the Rwandan genocide, in which the Hutus tried to rid the Tutsis in order to continue their democratic power.
I better go have a word with them.
Go around the back. Make sure no one comes.
The war is ultimately initiated in the film when word of political pride gets out,
in charge
which ties into the Marxism theory that the rich effectively have free rule and wealth determines everything. which leads to the less wealthy and powerful being made slaves to the system. Or in the case of Proto Rwanda, the Hutus eradicating the Tutsis in order to continue their supremacy over Rwanda.
I'm a good friend of General Bizimungu.
And that already wraps up this film theory tutorial. I'll put a few links in the description on a few topics covered in this video, such as the Rwandan genocide, just to help dilute the information more than anything else. But yeah, that's all we've got time for. I'm going to go and eat my SIM card. I'm out of here.